Hello everyone and welcome back for another Trinity stamps video. This is Cassie. Today we're going to be playing with the Norse Gnome stamps and dies. I love this little gnome. He's so stinking cute and I love the matching dies as well. We're also going to bring in the Modern Embossed alphabet. It's great. It's nice and big and it's got that beautiful embossed edge to it. There are numbers as well, which is wonderful. And then of course, because we're making an A7 card, I'm bringing in the Modern Embossed A7 layering dies. You guys know I'm obsessed with those. So let's jump into it. I'm going to put my little gnome inside of my Misty and I have some Express It cardstock. I'm going to ink him up with some Blackout ink by Ink on 3. Stamp that down. I'm actually going to stamp it a couple times just to make sure I have a nice crisp image. And then we'll move on to our coloring. It is going to be alcohol markers, but I did consider watercoloring him because I thought that would be super fun as well. So I'll put all my colors up on the screen for you. I think what's fun about this guy is that there's lots of color combinations. Well, I mean, obviously with most stamps, there's lots of color combinations, but the last time I colored him with like a red beard and he had green as his accent color. Today, we're going to let him actually have a gray beard. I thought that would be kind of fun. He's an older Norse gnome. And so I've started with my warm colors, that W4, and I'll bring in some W1 to blend that out just a tiny bit. And I'm using lots of flicking motions because that works well with hair. I'm trying to add some highlights, leave lots of white because I wanted his hair to be gray. I thought it would be kind of fun if we left some white space in there as well. Then we're going to bring in some cool tones. His boots are going to start with a C6, and it is kind of neat to see how the gray cool tones next to the gray warm tones, how different they really are. So obviously the cool tone has more of a blue to it, a blue hue to it. It's a lot cooler, obviously, and I think it's just neat. And so I'll bring in some C8, and then I'll use my C6 to blend that out a little bit. And then I'm going to color his skin tone. We've got E11, and then we've got some E13, but I feel like with this guy you could have done any skin tone. And then here's the blue I'm going to use. We're using B21. I thought it would be kind of fun to use some really cool blues. And so I'm using that on his hair ties, which sounds funny to say you're putting hair ties on him, but because he's, you know, supposed to be this manly Norse gnome. And then I'm bringing in, you can't see it, but it's a B24, or not 24. Yeah, it might be B24. 23. It's B23. And then I'll bring in my next darker color. I love bringing in, this is B97. I love kind of giving that dramatic, really dark tone to it these days. And then I'll just work backwards to kind of blend that out so that we have a nice transition from that really dark color to our really light color. That's one of the fun things about alcohol inks is that they are fun to blend, easier to blend than some other mediums can be. But it does take practice. And then once we're done with our blue, which I really like that, I think it looks good, we're going to move on to some browns. So his shield will be like a wooden shield. So we're using E25. And then the handle for his axe will be the E25 as well. I'm even going to use that on like the leather strap of his helmet or his hat or whatever you want to call it. And then I'll bring in one darker color just to add a little dimension. And I think it's E3 or E27. See, sometimes I get into coloring mode and then I forget to put the colors up on the screen for you. And then we'll blend that out with our previous color. And then we'll just use some C1 for a lot of our, or this is C3, for our metal components and also on his boots and on his gloves. And then I do bring in a jelly roll pen. It's just like a clear jelly roll. Just add a little sparkle to that silver area on the sword. You can kind of see some of that sparkle there, and on the shield and his helmet. Super fun. We'll bring in our matching die, tack that down with a little bit of mint tape, and run that through our die cutting machine. And then I did want to show you, I had already die cut out these two panels from our Modern Embossed A7 layer dies. I just had some patterned paper on hand, and then I also had some craft cardstock. I'll attach those down to each other. So we've got a nice layer going. And then I'm going to bring in that Modern Embossed alphabet. I did it with some silver cardstock, which is super pretty, and also this blue. Now the reason I did the blue is because I want it to be a shadow color for our silver. It'll add extra dimension. I kind of like doing that with alphabets because I love that extra dimension you can get when you layer them up and kind of just off them just a little bit, like they're just off center. And so that blue just sticks out on the left and the upper side of each letter. It's super fun. So I'm going to end up doing that with all of our letters. As you can see, we've got them all there and ready to go. Just putting a little bit of glue down on the blue one and then sticking our silver one on top of that, just off-centered. And then we've got it spelled out, "Your Epic." I thought this would be a really fun thank you. And so when I'm doing letters like this, I obviously kind of have to play it out, see how it's going to fit on there. The "your" almost didn't quite fit. But if I go right to the edge, this is why you kind of role play it. You can do it. And I am using the pattern on our cardstock, or our pattern paper, to help me line that up fairly straight. If you don't have a pattern, or you're just using regular cardstock, a ruler would be super helpful to stick that down. Or maybe even you could use some mint tape or some Post-it tape. Just hold it, put it down and make sure it's nice and straight. And then you can line your letters up right on the top of that. Of course, I keep moving my paper, so it sort of looks like it's not off-center, but I promise you it is. Or that it is off-center. It's not off-center. It is. It works. I'll just put it that way. And then we even have our little apostrophe. And then we'll do the epic down below, and the same process. And once all of our letters are on, then we can put some foam tape on our gnome. And I'll get my card base ready. Again, this is a 5x7 or an A7 card. So I'm going to show you a mistake I made here. Should have put this into my MISTI, but I got lazy. So you're going to see what I do, and I'm going to work with it because I like to do that. If I mess up, I still want to work with it. So I've used some Stormy Sky Distress Oxide ink, stamped it down, and the whole center didn't stamp. So what to do? Well, I did plan to use a sentiment, so we're going to put that right into the center of that to make it look like we almost did it on purpose. I'll ink it up with some Blackout ink, and then I'll do second and third generation stamping as well around it, off center, and then it almost looks like it wasn't a mistake. No one will be the wiser, right? Check it out. It works. It's fine. All right, then we'll go ahead and glue down our panel to our card base after we unplug our glue, which does not happen very often, just to let you know. And then we'll attach that down to our card base. And then we can peel off all of that release paper that we have on the back of our gnome and then stick him down right in the center. I didn't add any extra embellishments. I thought the shine from the Your Epic was plenty. And I do love how this card turned out. I sure hope you do too. So if you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button and definitely consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. And thank you so much for stopping by and spending your afternoon with me, or your morning, or whenever you're watching. I will see you very soon in another video. Bye, everybody.